Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about episode 3 of the HBO series Scenes from a Marriage, entitled The Vale of Tears. Now this is spelled V-A-L-E, not V-E-I-L. Not like a veil like you would wear at a wedding, but veil, which essentially means the same thing as a valley. So think of like a valley of tears. And I think if you've watched this episode, particularly the scene where Jonathan reads from his morning pages, you can understand why this episode was titled "A Vale of Tears," the Vale of Tears, because it is one of those situations where you can imagine that over the course of the year or so since Mira left, there's probably been a lot of tears on both sides. And I gotta say, I love this episode because my favorite thing about it, and which is weird because maybe like 30-40 minutes through the episode, I'm like, okay, well, this one has a kind of a different vibe. It's not as soul crushing as the first two. But when you get to the kind of the, I guess we'll call it the reveal at the end, it completely recontextualizes the episode. You know, you watch the episode, at least I did, interpreting the actions a certain way. But when you get to the end and you get the reveal that Polly has essentially dumped Mira already, and both of them already knew that before the events of this episode take place, it makes everything that happened prior read differently. And I love that. It's like you've got 2 episodes now, and you could go back and watch it again with the knowledge that both of them know that she's been dumped, and now you look at these scenes differently. So like I'm not gonna go through the whole episode and be like, okay, this scene you could like every single one, but just like, for example, there are a few, right? So I'm gonna start. I'm just gonna go over like a couple of the changes, right? So just, straight away, very beginning, Mira shows up looking fucking gorgeous, as Jessica Chastain often does. And you're like, wow. I looked at that as like, wow, I guess things are really going well with Polly. Like, and she came in with that vibrance of like, I'm happy, you know, I'm in this new relationship, everything's going great. And you think that this is just a new person, right? This is just someone who, you know, she's coming from a situation where she was upset, where she was down all the time, she was depressed, she was in a marriage, she wasn't feeling it, and now she's in a situation she likes, and now she's a lot more vibrant, she's glowing. That's how I interpreted it the first time. But now looking at it, I can look at it like, well, she probably came over there with the intention of trying to seduce him the entire time, because she has now proven that, contrary to what she was saying, she is very much someone who needs that attachment and who can't be alone. And I think that is such an interesting direction to take this show, because, and even in this episode in particular, because, you know, she says this whole thing about how it's supposed to be liberating to be, you know, to not feel like you have a home and to not feel tied down, and Jonathan calls bullshit on it. And sure enough, that's clearly what's happening here. Like she left, she leaves for this new passion and this new person, and she gets that, and then he ends up leaving her, and now she's trying to go right back to the guy that she left. Like, oh, I don't have my new passionate thing anymore. Now I'm going to go back to what I had before, because she can't be alone. Not because, I'm not going to say not because she doesn't love Jonathan. She very well probably does. But like in that moment, her motivation was not a love for Jonathan. It was like I need someone to attach myself to right now. And he correctly called bullshit on that. And I thought that was really interesting to look back on that. Just again, and that's just on her appearance. That's not even like all the moments that happened throughout this episode. Just her appearance, we can now recontextualize off of knowing that she had been dumped, and she didn't tell him, and he knew it, and he didn't tell her. Another one is, you know, you look at her offer to move to have Jonathan and Ava move to London with her. And again, originally I looked at that as like, wow, that's an ideal solution. That's very understanding of her. Like, she makes all this money, she's going to be making even more money. I want to talk about that for a brief moment in a second. But I wish one of you could remind me, because I'm probably going to forget that I wanted to talk about that. But she's going to make all this money. And she's like, well, you know, I actually think it'd be a good idea if you guys came to London with me. And she gives all the reasons why Jonathan can do that. He shoots it down like, you know, that's ridiculous. You know, Ava has a life here. She has a world here. We can't do that. Yada, yada, yada. And then you look at it like, now after you find out that Polly had already dumped her, she says like in a moment, you know, before she leaves, like, what if Polly wasn't coming? Would that change your answer? And he goes, what does Polly have to do with anything? And I looked at it that same way too. Like, he's not not coming because of Polly. He's not coming because he's not trying. This is not good for him. It's not good for Ava. Now I look at it like when he says, what does Polly have to do with anything? That was him trying to coerce her to admit that she had been dumped. So like you look at all these things differently, and now her idea of wanting to move them to London wasn't a kind gesture that she was doing for the betterment of her family. That was her again trying to after having been dumped, trying to run back to what she had before and trying to recreate that because she can't be alone. And like that to me, it's I love the fact that you can watch this episode a second time and the episode's going to have a totally different meaning with that little bit of information you get at the very end. I absolutely love that. I could go on and on about how all these scenes play differently once you know that, but I try to keep these videos around 15 minutes or so. But we can look at how he responded to these things with the knowledge that she'd been dumped. We can reinterpret his actions too, because I've only talked about Mira so far, but we can look at his actions too, because he told, and I love this scene where he's reading from his morning pages and he talks about how his parents' upbringing has made him someone who's kind of like detached, right? He's never really there, and that it must have been really hard for her to be married to someone who's never really truly present, and how that helped him come to grips with the fact that he wasn't blindsided by this cataclysmic event. It was something that, like she said, that had been built up over time, and that helped him understand that. And in that scene, you look at that as him like really coming to grips, like, I can't deal with having you around anymore. Like, I've just gotten past all of these things. He talked about another really great moment, actually, I'll talk about briefly. He says that, he thought about killing himself. He wished that she would die. And then he even had a moment where he thought that he wished Ava would die and that would be his revenge. I thought that was like, man, like, but it's almost like you can kind of understand where that's coming from, not from the fact that like, oh, he wants his kid dead, but it's like you want to make them regret that they ever left you in the first place. And he like, what is the ultimate way to make her regret what she's done? That would be it. And it's like a fleeting thought for him, but then it comes to fruition. She starts to get sick, and he's like, "Oh, did I bring this on?" It reminded me of Catelyn in Game of Thrones, how she wished death on Jon for Ned bringing him, bringing back a kid by another woman, and then Jon got really sick. Kind of the same thing, but you look at that, and now these scenes play out a little bit differently when you look at them with the knowledge that he knew that she had been dumped, because he looked like he was being strong to me in those moments. But then at the same time, now I look at other things and I think, was he really being strong? Because again, okay, he offered her wine multiple times. As soon as she comes in, he offered her wine. When she was getting ready to leave, he pressed her into taking more wine. Then when she starts to leave and then comes back, he offers to let her stay there, which again could have been, she could have got an Uber, like she could have stayed at a hotel, whatever. But you're gonna be a gentleman to your wife, ex-wife, separated, whatever. But they're not together. You're gonna be a gentleman to her. Let her stay there. I'm thinking like he's gonna sleep on the couch. Nope, he goes and sleeps in the bed. They're looking at each other lovingly. So like I don't think that now you can't look at Jonathan as like, I'm gonna be the strong guy. I'm gonna make sure that I don't let her pull me back into a situation that was bad for the both of us. I'm gonna, stand on my own, and I'm gonna make this. But like, no, that was all bullshit too. Like Jonathan knew what was happening, and he played into it. He fed into it. Can you think about the recontextualization of simply just offering wine? If she comes over, the first time you're watching it, she comes over, he offers wine. It just looks like a nice little, hey, you want something to drink? It looks like, friendliness. It looks like being a good host. But then that she doesn't, he knows she got dumped. And then as soon as she gets there, he's like, hey, you want some wine? So like you look at both of them differently, and there's so much nuance there. And I love that. And I don't know if I'm going to watch this episode again. I don't know if I necessarily need to, but I do feel like I might gain a lot just watching this and just looking for like little things that just kind of play differently because of that. So like I mentioned, I already mentioned, I love the scene with him reading the morning pages. I love the scene where he talked about, wishing death on himself and on Ava and stuff like that. So I want to talk about a couple of more things that I'm going to wrap this up. I just lost it. The thing that I want to talk about a moment ago, the thing about making the money. I always wonder when is enough. When does one have enough money? Like Mira already, it's already clear that she has a very well paying job. She's paid for all kinds of things for him to be able to stay at home, all this good stuff. And now she's being offered a promotion and a move to London, more and more money. And I'm just thinking, like, when can anyone have enough money? Like, she has enough money to live a comfortable life. Now, if she were thinking about moving to London, and this again, this thought entered my mind at the time, that before I knew that she was thinking of taking Jonathan and Ava with her, I was thinking, like, okay, is she willing to sacrifice even more of her time with Ava, or completely give up her time with Ava altogether, or do something that would lessen the quality of Ava's life just so she can get more money when she already has a ton? And I just feel like how, why would a mother, or why would any parent be willing to sacrifice the quality of their child's life? And quality of life has to do with more than how much money you have. But like, whatever, whether she leaves, whether she uproots Ava, whatever the case may be, why would you be willing to do something like that to get even more money when you're not hurting for money, when you have an abundance already? She says something like a 20th floor flat overlooking a park, or something like something that may sound like, she's got a rich people house, like a rich people crib. Like, what? I don't know. I can't understand why you can be living that comfortably, making that much money, and then go, but I could be making more, so let me lessen the quality of my child's life to do that. That didn't sit well with me in the moment. It makes a little bit more sense now that we know everything, but it still posed that question, because I've seen that both in real life and in other shows and movies, where it's like, people are just in this relentless pursuit of money to the point where it's a detriment. Like, now your whole life is consumed with whatever this is that you're doing to make money, and it's like you are already making enough money to be happy in the first place. Like, I get it if you don't have enough money to live comfortably, but if you do, like, at what point do you say, I've made enough money to where I'm not going to sacrifice my own personal mental health, or my own, my time, my ability to spend time with my kids, or whatever the case may be, stress, all that. When do I have enough money to where I'm not going to continue to pile on the negative to get more money? And I just thought that was just I guess a rhetorical question that I wanted to pose to you guys. I don't know, but yeah, I know, it just came to me. But another thing that I want to talk about is, I like the fact that this show swapped the genders. I learned that. I'm aware of the original Bergman version of this show, but I haven't seen it. But I'm aware that the genders have switched. And I think that's interesting because, now today we have people who, we have more, women have more agency, put it that way. Women can and are able to, I don't say able to have their own jobs. That sounds ridiculous, but we were at that point we did live like that at one point. But women are now powerful. Women are they have their own powerful jobs where they can make a whole bunch of money as well. They have positions of power within, politics and the government and all this kind of stuff. They just have more agency than they did, say, probably when the Bergman version was made. Women have more agency. Now you have these roles switched, where now the woman is the powerful one, the one who's making the money, the one who's kind of almost like, I don't want to say running the marriage, and then the guy is the one who's kind of like subservient at times. You see Jonathan kind of not buckling per se, because he was very assertive, especially in that first episode, but being the one who's almost like the victim, which is how that's always been painted in the reverse historically, is like the man's the piece of shit who has all the money, all the power. He's going to the office, he's fucking all his secretaries and all that shit, and the woman's sitting at home, not with no clue how badly she's being abused, and the man is just completely ambivalent to this. And now you kind of get that reversal where it's like Jonathan's kind of the victim here, and Mira is the one who's doing what men have historically been doing. And I find that dynamic interesting, because I wonder how that colors viewers' interpretations of the actions. Because of that, we've grown to be more sympathetic toward women in these situations. But now that Mira is, for all intents and purposes, the bad guy here, do people look at her as such? Like, are people finding, like, I'm finding Mira to be pretty repulsive right now. She's very manipulative. She's very selfish. She's doing a whole lot of things to hurt other people, And well, not other people, like everybody, but you know, Jonathan and Ava to an extent. But you know, I found Mira to be incredibly just off-putting in this whole series, and I've looked at Jonathan as the victim for the most part. And I said last week, like, you know, I wonder if we're gonna find out that Jonathan has done something to kind of like bring this on, and that's me being in that mindset of like the guy is always in the wrong, the guy always did something to have it coming, or the guy is, you know, like they were like the reveal is gonna be that, hey, Jonathan's actually a piece of shit, like, you know, like men always are in these situations, at least in television and movies, and it hasn't been that way. And I don't know. I wonder if people have been looking at it through that lens. Like, you know, the woman's the bad guy here, the man is the victim, and that's just actually how it's gonna be. Like, it's not gonna be a situation where you know, Jonathan turns out to be some piece of shit who had this coming. And you know, I watched the little preview thing for next week, and there's a scene where he says, you know, I'm not. I think he said like, I'm not attracted to you anymore, or I don't want to be with you anymore, something to that effect. And yeah, it looks like it's a situation where he's gonna have to play the I'm gonna have to be the strong one here, and I'm gonna have to make these hard decisions. You know, I might want to be with this person, but it's not good for me, and that's just something I've got to stand steadfast by. Like when he stopped them from having sex, which again, a incredible story. You know, the idea of like, you know, it took me, you know, that first day, it was a few minutes that I didn't think about it. Then, you know, later it was a few hours. Then now I can go half a day or a whole day without thinking about you or our situation. And if we have sex, I don't want to go right back to that, you know, to the you know, few minutes of not being able to think about you or whatever, or being able to not think about you. And I thought that was just such a great moment. So this is one of those episodes where it's like, it starts, you know, you watch it that first time, I'm saying this again, you watch it that first time and you look at it like, okay, that was cool, but then you get to that ending and you're just like, everything's different now. Like, I look at all of this differently. And I love that about this episode. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'll wrap this one up now, and I'll see you guys next week for episode 4 out of 5. So this is the penultimate episode of this mini series. So only 2 more left. I don't even know where they could possibly go on these last 2, but I from what I hear, the Bergman version continues to escalate. So that's kind of unfortunate for my blood pressure, but good for these videos. So I'll see you guys next week. Peace.